Welcome to 10 Minute Climate, the podcast brought to you by Beaverbrook Energy. Join Max.
Hi, I'm Max.
And Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony.
Who between them have got over 70 years of experience in the energy industry, and they're here to share it with you. Each episode, they'll cut through myths, answer the questions you've always wanted to ask, and break down the latest news about the energy transition. It's everything you need to know, delivered in just 10 minutes. So let's get started. Welcome to 10 Minute Climate.
All right, let's talk about gas in the context of everybody was so happy for 30 years that we moved from coal to gas, and now everybody hates gas. But let's go for the good bits of gas to start with. Back in the day, I know you like talking about back in the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they first started drilling for oil, they used to throw the gas away. They used to flare it off. But what do I want to do with that?
Flare it, burn it.
Yeah, just burn it. Because the gas systems, mainly in Europe, that had been set up were made from coal gas, where basically you bake coal in an oven and the gas that comes off, you capture it. You're left with coke, which is a smokeless fuel in theory. And then you use the gas you're also left with a terrible sludge, which used to eat everything. But yeah.
That was what was called town gas. And
town
you
gas,
get, every town's got gas works.
Yeah.
I live in Fulham, but there's a big gas works that's now being redeveloped. But
Yeah.
when we moved there 15 years ago, all the big gas containers were still there. And that's where they burnt the coal, created the gas, and it was piped to houses.
Yeah,
But
it was easy to do. And it was like the way electricity started first. You basically did it by neighbourhoods. Everybody had their own gasworks. And it was literally a manual labour thing. You baked coal and gas came off.
And the gas was piped, but it was dirty.
And it was dirty gas and it used to stink and it was horrible. But it was better than oil because you didn't have to keep filling it up and messing about with it. I mean, my grandparents' house was lit by gas until after the Second World War. It was prevalent everywhere. It's just weird. But then we got the transition to what they called North Sea gas, And
this we're talking late 60s, early 70s?
So we're talking late 60s, early 70s. So they basically had to change some fundamentals about how the gas was burnt because it's got different properties than town gas. Similar thing, but basically we're getting methane out of the ground. And the gas that used to be flared off was now caught and piped from the North Sea into the network, coming ashore at places like Bacton in Norfolk. You got gas that didn't have a smell, burnt very slightly differently, and they had to go around and change everybody's gas cookers and burners and everything else.
And it was a huge operation.
It was
over 8 years.
Operation.
It was one of the biggest engineering operations ever. The entire country was moved from town gas, and so you had all the pipes, all the burners, all the cookers. Everything had to be changed.
Yep.
But I'm guessing it's in a neighbourhood. If they said, right, we're going to switch on, 1st of August, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody had to change their equipment and burners prior to that.
Yes.
But I suppose it was mainly only cookers because did they have gas heating then?
They did. They had gas boilers. But at the time, the majority of houses were probably still heated by coal rather than central heating. Central heating was a newfangled thing in the 60s and 70s. But you're also talking about the fact that without it being one of the main objectives of doing this, they were looking for a cheaper, more manageable fuel. They made a massive reduction on the carbon imprint because they were no longer baking coal to make gas.
So it was lowering carbon, but people didn't know about that at that point. But
Yeah.
it was really about price and air quality.
Price, air quality, and obviously they considered that it was almost an endless supply. They thought, every time we poke a hole in the ground anywhere around here, we get gas. And for probably by that time, a century, we'd been flaring gas off. You used to fly over the Persian Gulf in the 1970s, and it was like Blackpool illuminations, all these huge gas flares burning off gas.
It's just crazy.
And the amount of energy was huge. But now, even places like that where they don't use the gas, they now capture it.
Yeah, because a few years ago they put up the satellites to spot methane emissions because methane is such a massive greenhouse gas.
80 odd times worse than CO2.
Yeah, but a lot of it actually isn't flared.
Yeah.
It's just released where it's bad. It is 80 times worse, but it stays in the atmosphere only for a relatively short period of time. So
But it leaks out of the ground in all sorts of places.
But the question was, where's it coming from? Mm-hmm. And everybody thought it was, the dastardly Iranians, or it'd be the Arabs not doing things properly or whatever. Actually, those guys are fine. It's the Americans, and it's the Permian Basin, mostly in Texas, that is just flaring enormous amounts of of natural gas because they've got nothing to do with it. Gas is so cheap.
Yeah.
And where it's being produced is too far from where it's used. They're on pipelines. They just burn it or just let it go. And
They
it's a
have
huge
insufficient export capability. They can't liquefy enough gas and export it, because there just isn't.
Well, it's very political because the more they export, the higher the prices locally. I mean, it's now, I think this year they'll become the world's largest natural gas exporter. But that's a shift. Going back to the UK, we thought we had unlimited amounts, and obviously it is limited, and the North Sea is, broadly speaking, running out. All these arguments about the North Sea, they kind of irritate me because it just sort of doesn't really matter. And it doesn't matter for two reasons. Firstly, we're running out. So the extra fields, they don't make a huge amount of difference. They're not going to mean that
It's symbolic. It's symbolic.
It's symbolic, but we used to be, an energy exporter and using most of our energy. We're not anymore. It's running out very fast, and none of this is going to make a material difference to that. But at the same time, when people say, "Well, it's great, we've stopped the Rosebank oil field or whatever it is," I don't mind. We're going to be using the same amount of gas, and you know what happens?
Yeah.
Is we're importing it.
Yeah,
Right? It's coming in from America. It's coming in from Qatar. It's coming in from wherever.
The
Including
reason we
probably
do
Russia.
the reason we do that is not that we've run out locally. It's just that fetching it locally is more expensive than buying it on the market from people who've got a surplus of gas.
Yeah, it's getting very expensive to drill
Yeah,
the North Sea. The easy stuff's been done. It's a hell of an environment.
Yeah.
But my point is, environmentalists are, they're like, great, we've stopped an oil field. But it doesn't stop anything in reality. And actually what it's doing, it's affecting the UK because we are just paying more for foreign gas. Instead of having the jobs here, instead of collecting the tax here, instead of keeping the money in the UK, we're just shipping that money offshore to other people. And if we want,
Like the Russians, for instance, although we only take about 5% of our gas from Russia.
Yeah, but it just means we're pulling more from the global markets.
Yeah.
It sort of pushes up prices, but not really. But it doesn't actually affect what's going on with carbon, and it just hurts us.
I mean, the advantage with gas is that it occurs naturally through petrochemical formations. It pops up onto the top of an oil field, and the way traditionally the oil fields tend to be shaped as a dome, and the way traditionally you got the oil out was you drilled the edge of the dome and the gas pressure pushed the oil out. It saved you having to doing other fancy things to get the oil out of the ground. When they want the gas, they quite often find fields that have very little oil, which in the past they used to ignore, but a whole huge amount of gas. So now instead they stick a pipe in the top and the gas comes out. You don't have to pump gas, it comes out. Once you get it into a national grid system, you might have to use compressors to increase the pressure to move it around in places. But normally, naturally, you stick a hole in the ground and it comes out.
And it comes out, and you put it in a pipeline, so it's cheap to move around.
Yeah.
Once you've got a
So
pipeline,
you don't have to actually move it; it moves itself. You just have to put pipes in the place that you want it to go.
Yeah, and it's clean to burn. You get a lot of energy out of it easily.
Yeah.
Gas boilers are fantastically cheap. You get one for a grand, 1,500 quid. It'll work for 10 years. They're reasonably efficient.
Yeah, and the combustion efficiency in modern gas boilers, especially if you've got a condensing boiler, which basically just recovers the heat from after the burning, it goes up the stack and you recover the heat from that as well into the water. So that makes it a very efficient boiler of sort of 80%.
But that's kind of the problem,
90%.
is that it's actually, other than the whole carbon thing, right, which is going to kill us, it's a great system. But the system works well. It's so it comes out easily. It's really cheap. We can pipe it around easily. We can burn it efficiently in small, cheap units. It keeps your house toasty warm in a way that no one appreciates. In fact, there's great statistics on how temperatures go up with price. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, when it was more expensive, when you were burning coal, the average temperature in a UK house was like 18.5, 19 degrees. But as it got cheaper, the average temperature is more like 21 degrees. And actually, the energy bill's pretty much the same. People just they just burn more gas and keep themselves warmer. We've got a system that is really good.
Yeah.
Now, what we have right now is people going, well, we've got to stop the gas. And everyone's like, well, quite like being warm.
Yeah.
Quite like my hot water on demand if I've got a condensing boiler.
Yeah.
Quite like my gas stove, so it heats up immediately.
Yeah.
And this heat pump sounds like it's going to be noisy, it's going to be rattly, it's going to be all sorts of problems. Here's the problem. It's very simple, right? We have a great system.
Yes.
It keeps us warm.
Yes.
Allows us to boil an egg rapidly.
Yes.
And is going to kill us all.
Exactly. The things that are hard to give up are the things that are easy and you like.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow and continue bringing you valuable content. If you're curious to learn more about Beaverbrook Energy and how we're navigating the future of energy, feel free to reach out to us directly. And for those looking for quick, actionable insights on the energy transition, be sure to subscribe to our 10-second climate newsletter, delivered every weekend with essential intelligence to help business leaders stay ahead of the curve. We appreciate you listening, and we look forward to having you join us again next time. Stay informed, stay engaged, and take care.